What happened on
Friday
for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix?
It's another race. It's just another one and another one. I'll have another one. Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. I'm hyped for it. I'm vibing. It looks grippy. It looks like cars, other than the McLaren, are quite quick this weekend. And just generally, I think we're in for some great action, Tom Bellingham.
We've kind of had it for a few years now, but it still takes your breath away, particularly at night, watching the cars. And now we have that on board as well, the gyro thing. It manages to look even more like a roller coaster and even faster.
Free practice one! The big talking point, obviously, was Gasly going fastest. And I know that it's always, but it's practice. We don't tend to see a midfield runner top a timesheet like that unless it's like changeable conditions or something ridiculous has happened, a massive red flag for ages. So I got a little bit excited for Gasly and Alpine and the potential for them this weekend.
It shows how close the pecking order is. I know we kind of go in a lot of the time and be like, oh, McLaren are so clear, which they are, but they're clear in the sense that, you know, days gone by, the team that were fastest would be a second clear in qualifying, sometimes more. Whereas now it's only a few tenths. So when we see these free practice sessions and people are doing different run plans or, you know, slightly different or get the best of the track, you can see a surprise, and it keeps us guessing all the way throughout the weekend, which is a great thing.
Question from people on Patreon member R&B Sheep. Are the Alpines actually good around this circuit, or was this just a fluke? At least in the hands of Gasly, it looks very promising. Doohan does seem to be struggling in comparison to Gasly. 8 tenths in FP2, obviously we'll get into that, but also similar in FP1 as well. I'm not surprised. Doohan came into this weekend saying that he's feeling quite confident. It's one of the tracks he really likes. But I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see rookies struggle more around here. I know we have the Oliver Behrman incredible story from last year, jumping into the Ferrari, etc., but it is a daunting track. One small mistake and you are punished so incredibly heavily that it has to weigh on some of these drivers' minds, because some of the speeds you take into corners where a wall greets you is petrifying.
Alpine, are they actually good? And we've said this before. It's the field being so close, and the midfield is really anyone's game. We think back to Alpine hadn't scored a point a week ago, and now we're talking about them as, are they actually best of the rest? And I do think it's going to just change every single race depending on the conditions. But they really are doing much better and look like a kind of midfield contender now, if you like, to score points.
They certainly have. Another question about Gasly. P1 Patreon member Alan Enderpay. Does Gasly deserve to have a second chance in the top team? He's been doing fantastic in recent form. This is obviously a talking point. Whenever a driver starts doing well, they're like, right, they need to go into a top 4 team. The reality is there are phenomenal drivers in all of the 4 top teams. If I'm Pierre Gasly, and this is the reason why he went to Alpine, he's hoping that formerly Renault, a massive name in the history of Formula One, can just sort their S out and build a car that's actually going to be competitive in future years. So for me, I don't think it's a case of moving to a top team. For Gasly, obviously the best case scenario would be that Alpine next year figure it out, they're a top 3 team and they're having a great time, and Gasly is the number 1 driver there. Moving to a Mercedes or a Ferrari or wherever, you know, Alan is mentioning, I don't think's the play.
It's very easy to jump on any good midfield performance and go, oh, they deserve to be in a top team. But minus Tsunoda and Antonelli, who have only just gone into those teams, the top teams consist of Norris, Piastri, Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and Max Verstappen. Is Gasly really, you know, don't get me wrong, he's a great driver, but is he better than those? I personally don't think so. The grid's just really, really good, and there's only a certain number of seats available. So I don't think being in the Alpine as a number 1 driver is actually a bad thing for Gasly at all.
Right, let's move to free practice 2, the representative session. Woo! And it's McLaren 1-2. Norris ahead of Piastri. So back to normal. Norris clear by just under 0.2 of a second. Verstappen 1/10 further back in third. Obviously, the main story point. What is happening with my words today, Tommy? The main talking point came up right at the end when we thought that free practice 2 was done and dusted. Everyone's doing their race runs. They're checking to see how long those medium tyres are going to last to deliver us a scintillating one-stop strategy. And then Yuki Tsunoda crashed. And I believe we were similarly, we were very much on Lando Norris when he made that same mistake and said, look, that is an error that you can't make. It's simply turning in too early. And it is a lapse of concentration as well. And actually quite a significant amount of damage considering the low speed that he did crash. It is a lapse of concentration. It is a mistake from Yuki. You then look at the more positive side of things. He has looked reasonably in there, only a few tenths, maybe even matching Max Verstappen at times during free practice so far this weekend. And this is something, again, we've not really seen from a Red Bull driver. However, Yuki in the wall, just, he loses a couple of kudos points because of that.
Yeah, and all the headlines will be, of course, the pictures of the crash. That'll be the biggest takeaway from like every media outlet and everything from the session, because it's a high profile crash and a driver in a top team. But Yuki's been doing well, but this is just one of those things where, of course, when he got into that seat, that he's had amazing speed. We were all kind of, us in particular, were saying, well, he deserves a chance now. He's got great speed. He's beaten all his teammates. But the one thing was that kind of worry that he can still have these moments where he can get a bit crash happy or, take off a front wing while battling someone or something like that. Thankfully, it's only practice. So, if he can get this out the way now, in a weird way, it's kind of good if he gets the the crashing out his system now.
Fingers crossed for Yuki. He pushes this to one side and qualifies really well tomorrow. He has got it in the car, clearly. Hopefully it hasn't dented his confidence too much. But then, to be fair, I love how this is the only driver we're talking about that's caused a red flag or had a significant crash, because other drivers were clipping the walls. You had Piastri, Gasly, Albon, Antonelli, to name a few, that were getting pretty up close and personal with all. Antonelli just did slap the wall around the final corner. Yeah. Then immediately was like, box, I'm coming in, I've hit the wall.
This is the thing with track limits, and we always say, you can move the walls, they'll push it further. You could move that another mile to the right, and they'd still go to the... They'd still go flat out, yeah.
Exactly.
Right,
let's move on. Question from Fergie's right ref. What's happening with Lewis? He seems slow compared to Charles. Hamilton, has looked off it this weekend so far. What that might be, I don't know. Obviously, we heard that they were going in different setup sort of directions. Obviously, Charles was looking on the back foot in China and then has bounced back since then. It's a difficult one. I'm looking at his fastest sector times, and he's slower than Charles in all three of them. So it's not as if he's sacrificing a certain sector to try and gain it back elsewhere. He's not looked quick at all.
Since the new regulations, he has struggled here. It's almost been a bit of a bogey circuit. I remember
Q1, didn't he?
Yeah, the kind of that was such a big moment after kind of Hamilton dominating for so many years of Formula One, to go into the new regulations where Mercedes didn't look particularly great and he was struggling, and you had that massive moment where Hamilton didn't even make it out of Q1, and then looking at the other sessions, he's been behind George Russell in every qualifying there as well, and we know how good Leclerc is around here. That's why we both went for pole, which, I'll be honest, is very ambitious.
It's incredibly ambitious.
It's incredibly ambitious. So I'd argue that what's happened to Lewis Hamilton is that Charles really good around here, and Lewis Hamilton isn't great around here.
Okay, next question. Ben Jeffo129. Will this be Doohan's last race with the gap to Gasly? Oh my God. Okay, Ben, relax, bro. It's practice.
It's practice.
Come on. That is where I am going to, just fire the klaxon of it is just practice. We can't be saying just because Doohan is taking some time to build up confidence in practice that he's now going to lose his seat. If he's knocked out in Q1 in qualifying, then that is, of course, another thing to go against him, sadly. But let's wait till tomorrow on that one. I don't think we can start speculating that it's his last race, especially when we have been saying that he's looked promising at points.
If he has a clean weekend, I think he'll be fine.
It's mad that we're talking about it like, if he has a clean weekend, he can make it through another race weekend.
I know, but
there's
obviously so many rumours about it, but it does seem like he's going to be, a lot of rumours suggest now that he is going to be given till the summer break, which is maybe a lot further than a lot of us thought.
It's such a bizarre thing to talk about that it's, because usually we're speculating, okay, maybe he could lose his seat. Maybe we're kind of sat here going, he's going to lose his seat, but we don't know when.
I know. It can't give him confidence either, can it?
I genuinely hope from a human level that he's enjoying himself in Formula One and that he is taking in all of this because, who knows when it will be the end for him, sadly. Soma Daydream asks, has Sainz turned a corner and closed the gap to Albon? I think so. We saw that last weekend. It was definitely points up for grabs for Sainz. But sadly, it all went wrong for him. And he's taken that form into Saudi now. It's taken a little bit of time for Carlos, but now that he's showing some promise, the sort of sky's the limit for him, I think. I genuinely am excited to see where Sainz gets to by the summer break in terms of the handling of that car and just how much he can outperform it.
This is the thing, though, with it, is that midfield, to go right back to the very start of this podcast, the midfield is so close that you can make one small little error, lose a couple of tenths, and it is genuinely the difference between a P8 and a P17 or something. It's absolutely crazy. But it's also a good crazy, because this is what we want to see. The drivers make the difference now.
Yeah, we love to see it. And finally, question from P1 Patreon member M. Lacken. With all the accidental blocking, how crazy is qualifying going to be? I'm glad that obviously they have opened some corners up more than what we saw when it first was brought in, Saudi, but it is still a honestly terrifying track to watch on board. And it's a completely different level of avoiding cars than any other track. They genuinely have to go off, on the inside of a corner, completely off on the outside. It's not like they can even just stay on the black stuff. They have to go to the extremes to get out of the way, because if there's one small little swapper and the car goes flying in a direction it is not meaning to, it can be an aeroplane crash. So I'm hoping the drivers continue to be very aware of it, because this is one of the circuits where I just get a little bit more tense when watching.
But it really does feel like it's a kind of an accident waiting to happen, because there's been so many near misses for so many years at many circuits, not just this one. And the scariest thing in Formula One is the speed difference. You kind of, this track you see the speed, but you don't kind of realize how fast Formula One cars are a lot of the time until you see a car going slowly, and then you go, oh my word. All it takes is one little moment. Look at the last race with the two Williamses when Browning was doing was it FP1. Little mistake, and like you say, we're getting Mark Webber at Valencia, and we really don't want to see that happening. So yes, so thankfully so far we've not seen that at Saudi, because this is a question that just happens every single year, where there's so many close calls, and it really does. And hopefully this question does continue, and we don't have to be talking about a major incident.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed for all the drivers, especially in qualifying, because that is where we see those differences in speed. And that is the problem, right? It's not just all the cars going around at a fast speed. It's the massive difference that we can get whilst they're trying to treat these, well, as we also have seen, a one-step softer set of Pirellis this year. Still looks like we're going to have a one-stop. So maybe we go two steps softer than this into the just 3-lap tyres, and then we have to come into the pits. But they tried at least Pirelli to make it more than a one-stop, but I think because the track is so grippy that it just doesn't take away from the tyres like we saw in Bahrain. But that is it. We are done here. Our Friday wrap-up is complete, and we will see you tomorrow live on Twitch and YouTube, as always. Matt P1 Tommy, and we will be reacting to everything as you already know also well from us. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
I just can't wait for quali, because it is like one of those circuits that just takes your breath away a bit.
It's like Monaco, but better.
Maybe.
Monaco, but more high speed.
Yeah, exactly. And just watching Formula One cars, I know it's a sketchy circuit, but my word, is it as an exciting watch to see
When
them
it's a
go
clear
around
track and a car just in its own little world, just being ragged around. Yes,
there. Yeah,
please.
it's crazy.
Right, that is it. See you soon. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.